Hi everyone and welcome to my live stream here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Well, today a little bit later, we had some things to do, and actually I could only start at 8:30, but I hope you had the announcement on Twitter, on Facebook, you could see that. So now here I am, just a few minutes late, sorry again. Always a few technical issues to check before I start. Last week I had a few problems, and I hope that it won't happen again. So today, as you may have seen, I hope you're all okay. Hello, chess player 007. I think I guess who you are. And chess improvement regular here. Hello. So well, for those of you who are new, of course, this is a live stream. So of course, this is about interaction. Of course, I'm going to talk. Of course, I'm going to show some things, but the most important thing is interaction. So I count on you, bonsoir Jean-Marc. I count on you to be active, ask questions, put all remarks in the chat there, this side or this side. I don't know. I can't really understand, but well, it should be left on your screen, or maybe right. I don't know. Anyway, today, you know, last week, no, not last week, last Sunday, I played a game in the Swiss League. This was the second round of the Swiss League, and yeah, well, I played with my team of Zurich. And we played in a small village somewhere between Yverdon and Lausanne, for those of you who know Switzerland. Anyway, and we faced that local team, which is not very strong, but they have improved in the past few years. And well, they face a tough struggle against the relegation, but probably they have a chance to make it. In any case, our match last Sunday was quite tough. We won eventually 5-3. Which speaks for itself, of course. The match was not easy. And my opponent was Aurelio Colmenares, who is a FIDE master from Switzerland, originally from South America, but he came to Switzerland when he was pretty young. And yeah, we played that game. He's rated about 23.85. I was white, and he blundered a pawn after 7 moves. So I thought for a while, I decided to take it. He blundered, I should take it. And eventually he got really good compensation, because my development was insufficient. Or actually, I didn't play too accurately after I won the pawn. Objectively, white's position is better, but I didn't really pay attention. I thought that move, this move, I would be better anyway. And in the end, I ended up against a very strong attack. So we're gonna see a few examples. Before I show this game, I'm gonna talk a bit about the importance of developing pieces. Most of you are regular club chess players, good chess players, so you all know about this important rule. But as we'll see, even sometimes very experienced players, grandmasters, can make mistakes or forget about it. Sometimes you can do it deliberately. But you should never forget that if you play without some of your pieces, that means at a certain point in the game, your opponent will be kind of material up. So you play with a rook on h1, a knight on g1, and a bishop on f1, which are all blocked by your pawns. That means for the moment, these 3 pieces are inactive, useless. So your opponent may be stronger at some point. So that's actually quite, yeah, going to be the center of our discussion tonight. Hello, nature. Yes, yes, yes. Well, 8:30 again, but after next week we'll be back at 8. So for you Indian folks who are following me and watching me, don't worry, we'll be back at 8, so that probably it won't be too late. Probably 8 is quite late at your place, midnight 30 something. So yes, Colombia, Aurelio Colmenares. I can see we have some fans of Aurelio Colmenares, or maybe he is Aurelio Colmenares himself, because I saw he was going to watch this show. So Aurelio, whenever you are, wherever you are, hello, and I hope you will enjoy our and participate, of course, in our stream tonight. So let's move to some chess, but perhaps you guys who plays have some things to say about development, importance of development. Perhaps you want to share an important moment of your chess games, of your career, and say what happened in your games. Hello, Mark Cram, of course, faithful from day one almost, I think. So yeah, if you have memories about problematic development or things you have experienced, being on the right side or on the winning side or on the side which usually has fun, or on the other side, as was my case last Sunday, just don't hesitate to share it. By the way, I have a little problem with my throat, so you will pardon me if I drink some waters from time to time during this live stream. Probably the climatization in my car, because it's pretty hot even here in Luxembourg, and yeah, I had to cool my car, and somehow after that I thought my throat was a bit sore. So I hope everything is going to be okay for talking tonight. Actually in 2000. I think it was the first tournament after I became a grandmaster. I became a grandmaster. My third gnome I did at the Olympiad in Istanbul, 2000, somewhere in October, November. It was at the same time as the match Kasparov-Kramnik, sorry. And just after that, I played another team tournament for Switzerland. It was the Mitropa Cup, which is well known for Swiss players, but also for neighboring countries of Switzerland. And in a game I played against Grandmaster, he might not have been a Grandmaster then, Shulava from Croatia. I remember he surprised me in the opening. I was white. He surprised me with some very strange opening, and I remember I moved 10 times with my queen in the first 16 moves, which is not recommended usually. Your queen moving around, and I probably haven't played like 3-4 moves with pawns, maybe one move with pieces. Anyway, my king was not castled, and the game was very complicated. So I was not doing too well in that game, which I eventually won thanks to time trouble. Yeah, I remember I even offered a draw in the time trouble to my opponent because, well, it was a team event. I was worse, but I was ahead on time, and somehow he was quite upset when after the game that I offered a draw at that moment, because he felt I was lost. I was not lost. I was worse, but for the team it was quite a good decision. Basically, we're having a good result. Well, eventually in the compilations, in the end, he failed and I won. Of course, it was not a great game from all points of view, but I kept this game in mind because. Yeah, indeed. When I was not aware of it during the game, but when after the game I looked at it, suddenly I noticed that I played 10 moves with my queen in the first 16 moves of the game. So that wasn't, really good. I had taken a pawn though with my queen, but it was, nothing to be proud of. So, Nature, I can see your comment and I'm reading it. If you sacrifice a pawn and you believe only Stockfish gives -1 and is opportunity not clear, is it okay to play that way? Recently I won like that, but Stockfish evaluation was -1 throughout. Well, nowadays of course we have these computers giving us more or less the truth about a position, about the objective evaluation of a position. But chess is not... I would say chess is not a science. It's a game, above all. And the fact that it's a game makes it contain some elements. Psychology, of course, being maybe the most important factor, which cannot be touchable and palpable. Psychology, but also linked to that somehow pressure. When someone attacks, I mean chess-wise, when someone attacks, that means the opponent is under pressure, be it under king's or castle, your kings being under attack, or simply a pressure, positional pressure. Being on the defending side is not easy. It makes it more difficult. Usually the worth of each move is more important. The value of each move is more important, because a mistake can be equivalent to the loss of the game. If you attack, basically when you make a mistake, that means perhaps your attack has slowed down or it has disappeared, but perhaps you are not lost yet. So basically you should, of course, the evaluation of a computer is important, especially afterwards, but during the game you have other factors, psychology, time, of course, and some others. But the fact that a position might be difficult to play, very complicated, for instance, calculation, a lot of calculation may be needed, deep calculation, deep variation, complicated, unusual positions. So all of these factors actually may make your pawn sacrifice valid, very much so. Recently I read that interview by Morozevich, who actually was described Carlsen's style and play, and he said that when he would play Carlsen, he felt that Carlsen would not always play the best moves, but he would play moves which are unpleasant, which are practically good. They're not mistakes, but they are not the best moves objectively, but they create tension, they create problems to be solved by the opponent. When you put your opponent under question, when you put him to the test, basically by asking some very concrete and difficult questions, even if your move is not the best one, those questions may be difficult to answer. At the end of the day, the player who makes the last mistake usually loses the game. So if you can provoke these mistakes, that means your move may be good, even though objectively there may have been better ones. So it might be a bit complicated to explain, but I hope you got more or less the idea of what I meant. And this is more or less what Morozevich was saying about Carlsen, that he has this capacity of provoking mistakes by the opponent. I myself, who also played Carlsen many times, but I felt the same with some other top players, not all, but some of them, is that they really put you under pressure almost every move, and they really want you to make mistakes. Their aim is not to play, the perfect game, best moves all the time, but to put you under pressure. It's especially true with players like also Nakamura, and I felt like this against Mamedyarov, although I haven't played against him for many years already, but it's really something you can feel, basically. Hello Omkar, hello. And Nature, you're a science student, so actually chess should be a good balance. You're a science student, so just to give you a comparison, Mikhail Botvinnik, who was world champion, became world champion in 1948 and remained for almost 15 years, with some interruptions, but basically he remained the world champion. He was not a full professional in chess. He was also an engineer, and he has a scientific basis, really. He made he graduated and then he worked as an engineer, so he had the scientific approach of chess. Of course, times were very different back then, but he remained a formidable player as well, with all with all qualities needed to be a world champion. So okay. Let's perhaps switch to the games. Here we are. Well, I'm just gonna give a few examples at the start, just to highlight a few things which may seem perhaps anecdotic to some of you, but we should always keep in mind when we choose an opening in chess what are we doing to our pieces, how are we going to develop them. And when I was young, well, I actually always played almost all my life. I played d4 on knight f3 or c4, but basically when I was young I would play d4, and I really liked those openings with f3, the move f2 f3. You want to play e4, you want to take the center, whatever your opponent does. And so I would do it in the King's Indian. I would play the same-ish, e4, d6, and f3. And also I had my period of my career when I played the f3 same-ish as well. It's pretty popular nowadays. 25 years ago it was not really popular, just people like Shirov would play it sometimes. But I really enjoyed those f3. I mean, it's when you are young, you want to have a fun game, you want to have a complicated game, you don't want to play positional chess. So that was actually my deep thinking behind my choices of playing f3 here or in the same-ish. And it would actually work when I faced juniors or weaker players. I would get my very fun game, and I would be able to launch an attack, and I would win, and I would be very happy and proud. But at some point, okay, becoming a bit stronger, I started facing grandmasters, and suddenly, well, they would know how to react really well from the opening, and I would really struggle. I would struggle to develop my pieces, because after all, when you play f3, what you do is that you suddenly occupy with a pawn a square which is actually the most natural developing square of your knight on g1. And when you actually start facing those strong players, they actually show you, that after a few moves later, basically a few moves later, they're ahead in development, and you struggle to find a place for this knight. Should you put it on e2, go out to h3, and you do struggle, and you haven't castled yet. And suddenly they start to break the center open. Objectively correct or not, it doesn't really matter. That's actually what I was talking about when explaining or trying to answer to Nature Vajianat, sorry. And I would actually struggle, and yeah, a year or two after I got my my zeros in those games, I actually started rethinking my whole opening strategies, and I started studying more, or let's say, yeah, more sound opening systems, with the knight going to f3 most of the time. So yes, I had my time in which I definitely have fun. I think it's the right way to develop also as a chess player, that you start by playing complicated things when you are young, you're not yet experienced, so and on the other hand, you have a lot of energy, so you can calculate a lot, you want to calculate a lot, so you're striving for complicated games. And these f3 variations, this is exactly what you want to do. Exactly as the same as when I was young, until I was 16, more or less, I would play the Benko gambit or the Volga gambit, until I started facing good players, stronger players, and they would take the pawn and keep it, and then technically they would beat me. And it's not like that the Benko or the Volga is bad, it's just that you can't always play those over-aggressive lines. And so the same here for f3 and so on. So basically, when thinking about moves you want to play in the opening, you should also think about your pieces and what you're going to do for your development. It's clear that every move in chess has a drawback. I could start telling you about the drawbacks of d4, of knight f6, etc. But this f3, all moves have a drawback, but it's not always being felt in the game. But this move f3, whenever you play it, this is going to be felt. You are certainly going to be felt. There is an idea when you play f3, of course. You want to play e4, you want to take the center, but think about your pieces, and especially this knight there on g1. I remember Yasser Seiravan, who used to be a great grandmaster, also a very strong grandmaster. He's been junior world champion. And he was a top player in the 80s, and now he's very well known, of course, as a commentator. He would say that you have to talk to your pieces. You have to ask your pieces, what do they want? And when you play f3, you should keep an ear open and listen to what your knight on g1 is saying. I'm sure he's not very happy there. Let me check the chat later. Yeah, well, of course, if you play the same issue, you might want to play f3. I mean, there are top players who play f3. I mean, the same issue is nowadays all rage again, and it's certainly considered a very strong weapon against the King's Indian as well. But I'm not criticizing the same issue itself, or f3 in the Nimzo Indian itself. I'm just saying, keep in mind that your development is automatically being slowed down by this move on f3. And when you see Mamedyarov play f3 in the Nimzo Indian, for instance, because he's one of the greatest advocates of this Nimzo Indian line, which I can show here, when he does this, actually he knows that, and he's really well prepared. So his preparation goes beyond the opening phase, meaning that basically he has already devised all strategies on how he's going to develop this knight, and basically how he's going to solve the problem of his king, which automatically remains longer in the center. So of course, when you are well prepared as the number 2 in the world, then it's not a problem to play moves like this. Otherwise, you have to keep these things in mind. Bulent Kirka or Kirtsa, hello, I've never seen you here, so welcome. Yes, of course, in the Nimzo Indian or in the Samish, we can certainly find ways to develop the knight, but to h3, then f2, or even f4, or somewhere else, or just bring it to e2. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point of the pawn on f3 occupying the natural developing square of the knight on g1. And well, before I actually move to the games, I wanted to show you, because there is one of mine, but I also want to show you another game if we have the time. We'll see. It seems I'm talking a lot, and I am very happy actually that you participate a lot as well in the chat. Well, I wanted to show you this line, which we may actually learn when we are kids. This central gambit, or d4, pawn takes d4, and c3. Well, of course, queen takes d4 is a completely other story. And if you play knight f3, you might easily transpose into the Scotch. But here there is this. I think I can't remember if it's the Danish gambit or something like this. Maybe you guys, you know this. So some people play c3 here and takes on c3, and now they develop. And of course, for black, it's dangerous to take these 2 pawns, I mean 2 extra pawns, because white has gained a lot of time to develop, and he has actually developed his 2 bishops on very aggressive and active diagonals here. So f7 is a critical point. It's not always easy to develop the bishop here. You know, if you play knight f6, you might already be faced with a move like queen b3 or even e5. So very dangerous things here. So yeah, the Danish, thank you chess player 007. So you know that, yeah, bishop b4 is a good move after bishop takes b2. Yeah, well, I don't know the theory of this. I just thought it would be fun to mention this line for white, because it's a typical way to give pawns in order to you know, speed up your development of pieces. Sorry, my throat, I can feel it, but I'm gonna make it through, don't worry. So I can see many comments, thanks a lot. So that's the Danish gambit, bishop b4, strong move according to chess player 007. Certainly a killer, are you? And Omkar says that black usually can give a pawn back with d5. Yeah, that seems like a strong move, just to open the diagonal of the bishop, giving back a pawn, open the diagonal, just be able to develop soon. So thanks for your comments. Actually, my opening knowledge of this line stopped after bishop takes b2, so I'm very happy that you guys tell me how best to continue with black. So it seems bishop b4 or d5 are just good for black, and I have no doubt about it. Jean-Marc Leprêtre, coming back to your remark about the same-ish, which is yeah, gives definitely a very solid center pawn, a central position for white, and attacking chances on the king side. And this is exactly the way I liked to play when I was a junior. Bishop e3, queen d2, h4, bishop h6, g4, and hoping to mate. Yeah, bringing back nice memories, actually. That's true. So, well, actually, let's now move to that game I played against Aurelio Colmenares, rated 2385, so yeah, more or less 200, perhaps a bit less than 200 rating points less than me. I was not prepared really for him. I didn't really expect to play him, but I guess the same applied to him. Might not have expected to play me. So in any case, I decided to play c4, which he might not have expected. Well, he went for this, and here again, okay, I used to play g3. I thought about playing any other move, so I went for a3, which, yeah, if black doesn't play d5, then at least my move has prevented bishop b4, which is usually something which is quite unpleasant when you play g3. I mean, here both d5, of course, but also bishop b4 are quite good, I think. So since I didn't really know where he was going in case of g3, I decided to play a3, and he went d5 anyway. Takes, and now we have a Sicilian with reversed colors. And I have played this extra move a3, which is useful in a Sicilian, definitely. Actually, I was thinking here that maybe e4 would be an interesting way to play a Sveshnikov reversed, except that now, of course, knight b4, which is a good move against a Sveshnikov. Of course, here knight b4 doesn't work, and so he has to find something else. But the thing is, the Sveshnikov is, even though it's a pretty active opening, it's also an opening where black tries to equalize. And here, basically, I'm white, and I'm not really, well, my goal is not to equalize. I still hope that white is able to fight for the initiative. And if I play this, I thought he might take on c3. I don't want to take with the d pawn. And if I take with the b pawn, well, yeah, I might be able to play d4 one day, or maybe not if he plays bishop c5. So I'm not really sure where I'm going here. Besides, there is also knight f4, which could be even better here. Because in the Sveshnikov, the right answer here is d5, so d4 here. Takes, well, king or knight takes, might not really matter. Let's say knight takes. And here I have to take, and I'm not sure I'm very happy to have played a3 here. Objectively, black is doing absolutely well here. So it's too forcing, so I decided to play queen c2. And So I can see many players joining. Hello Fabrizio Patuzzo, a strong chess player from Switzerland. Hello. And so Noah asking me if A3 is preparation. Well, not to this game, because when I said I had not really prepared for Aurelio in that game, so I decided to play C4, like from scratch. But A3, I do know some things, because I have played the English in my career from time to time, so I have studied it for both colors actually. So there are things I know about A3. I know there are some tricky ideas. I also know that basically white is not capable of showing an advantage, of course, if black is well prepared, but where is white capable of showing an advantage? I do not really know. So it's just a game, and I thought that playing a Sicilian, which I can play as black, would be a good idea perhaps. In any case, here, let me see if there... hello Christian Terra. So why didn't I play d4? Well, I was not ready for my opponent. I thought he... that's a question by Luis Carvajal. Actually, I didn't play d4 because I know my opponent plays the Grunfeld or he can play the Slav, and I was not really ready for him. So I thought he was more likely to be ready for me than I was for him. So I decided to surprise him. And since I play c4 on knight f3 on first move as well, I decided to go c4. Basically, when you think of it, most chess games are not decided in the opening phase. So whether I play d4, c4, knight f3, of course, it's better if you know your systems. I mean, I wouldn't play h4. I mean, just because it's not decided in the opening, I wouldn't play 1h4 or 1a4 or rubbish like this. So I still try to play something normal, something that I know, and that's actually applies here. So I think my opening choice was pretty good, especially since we're going to see yeah, b3. Why not? b3. It's not really my cup of tea, but why not? I could have done it as well. Actually, I faced Aurelio once before. It must have been a few years ago, 2014 or something like this. Aurelio, if you are here, you can tell me. It was in Basel, and I played knight f3. I wanted to avoid his Grunfeld. He played c5, and I played b3. So Luis, maybe that's you. Yes, 2015. So b3, yeah, we played like this, and the game, yeah, in the opening I didn't really get anything, but my opponent didn't, I mean Aurelio didn't play really well, and then I got an advantage quite early on. But even then, the game was not really decided in the opening, because he fought really well. It became complicated, and I had to be very careful afterwards. So back to the game, here, queen c2, and we are here. Then there are many moves here for black. He can play bishop e7, he can play bishop e6, you can even go back with the knight, a move played by Nepomniachtchi, for instance. But he played bishop g4, which I thought, okay, in those lines of the Sicilian when white hasn't black hasn't played d6 yet, so here white hasn't played d6, d3. This bishop on g4, or with reversed colors on g5, is not really doing anything great. So I thought nothing great here, bishop g4. But then I saw, okay, things are hanging here, and perhaps there will be queen e4. So maybe some ideas, and then I spotted this knight takes e5, which I played in the game. Sorry, because of my fault, it's not very nice. And after the game, my teammate Werner Hoog said, well, it looks like, you know, with his high voice, he said, oh, it looks like he got a strong compensation, and maybe I would have said to myself during the game in this situation, well, he blundered, but it looks a bit dangerous, so let's forget about the fact that he blundered, and let's just play a move like e3 and play a normal Sicilian. Because indeed e3, I also thought about this move, bishop takes f3 is not really what you want to do in a Sicilian, even though it's not a bad move, but I think it's usually a bit more useful for I mean here for white to have this. So indeed it would have been possible to play just e3 and then develop the bishop either to e2, c4, or even b5, who knows, probably not b5 but c4 or e2, and playing some sort of normal Taimanov type of Sicilian or can. That would have been something really good. So nevertheless, I couldn't resist the temptation and I took on e5. Took back, queen e4, and here, well, I of course checked that I'm not going to remain a piece down, but of course it's really a pawn for white, and I expected bishop d6 indeed, because black needs to develop his pieces. That's actually going to be the main background of his compensation here. And in this position, I started playing carelessly. Well, I played carelessly in this moment, because afterwards I understood that somehow it was not really going my way. But psychologically, I could not really believe that black could have enough compensation for the pawn. After all, he blundered. So why on earth would he deserve to get compensation after he blundered? But chess is a bit more complicated than this, and Kaisa is the goddess of chess. Is you know, she doesn't really care about those blunders. She cares about what's happening on the board. So here I should have been more careful, and I completely let's say well, even underestimated his plan. I saw that he could play c6 and try to castle long, but I didn't really think it would be any good. I was rather expecting some very quick short castle, rook e8 ideas, but that's actually, if I had anticipated that maybe c6, queen e7, castling long would have been his next move, then I would probably have taken with the knight on d5, which would have been better, objectively better. The main difference is that the knight doesn't have to go back to c3 if attacked, but it can also go back to e3, which is not very natural. But now if black plays c6, as in the game, I would go knight e3, and this is actually not very good for black, because there is a difference. Well, the bishop is attacked, and I'm threatening f4 as well, so he has to go back to e6. And then the computer actually shows f4, which is anything but natural here, but you know, concretely here it works pretty well. Actually, knight d7 is best. Knight f5. Well, actually, that's the point of white's idea to play knight e3. But look at what I've done. Actually, I've moved my queen twice to take a pawn, and this knight has already moved 4 times. So and we can't really see how my bishops are going to go out next. So I need to move a pawn to do that. So I'm actually still a bit down in development. But here, concretely, it's okay, because he has to play bishop f8. The bishop is attacked and g7 is attacked. He can't, you know, keep both of them safe unless he plays bishop f8. And now I have knight d4. And white is actually better, but it's still not, of course, it's not over. Here, knight c5, I would take on e6, he would take back, and I have to move my queen to f3, c4, c2, I don't really know where, maybe c4. He's going to play maybe even queen d5. And black's hope is that at some point he's going to play knight b3 and eliminate this bishop, and will remain with opposite colored bishops. White is better, perhaps even clearly better, but still not, you know, it's not over. I still remember when I read Bronstein's book about the candidates tournament in Zurich, which is of course a very famous book. Somewhere in that book he says about a game where one of the players won a pawn in the middle game, early middle game even. He says, okay, a pawn, this is always, or very often, this is overrated as a advantage factor. it's a pawn, of course. It's 1 point. I mean, according to computer, he wouldn't say this because computers didn't exist back then. But he said, okay, it's a pawn, but there is a lot of life usually left in the game if pieces are on the board. You know, king safety, pawn structure, piece activity, many things can influence the nature of compensation when you're pawn down. So, well, here, you know, it's a pawn, but it can always, you know, there can always be some difficulties for white. So after knight takes d5, perhaps instead of c6, castling is best here, which is actually the move I had expected also in the game. And then d4, I had to look at this during the game. I thought that 5 has to be played, queen c2, and now knight c6. If he goes to g6, well, of course I hadn't seen knight e3, but according to the computer it's a really good move, which secures white a clear advantage. So knight c6 should be better actually. And here, well, I had actually thought it is to be quite a decent compensation for black. Well, the computer doesn't really agree because he gives here knight f4 and claims that white is seriously better. I mean, it doesn't really claim like +1, but it says, yeah, a nice advantage from the opening for white. Basically, I guess computer shows that he's going to finish development. So, well, I trust that actually. But in practice, you know, we have to still to achieve castling with white, so it's not over. So I took with the queen when I thought this would be better. I have some options if he castles, like knight e4 perhaps to try and exchange his bishop, or even to play d4 immediately. Well, I didn't really think I would take on b7, to be honest, but well, in any case, c6 happened. And here again, I certainly saw my opponent's answer to the move I played in the game, but I somehow couldn't really believe it. I mean, believe that black had enough compensation. But here was probably the last moment when I could, well, maybe the last, or we'll see later, but basically the best move was to go back to e4. And I'm threatening d4, more or less. I don't think f5 is really something black would want to do here, but okay, I think bishop e6 is more or less okay for black. I mean, it's a pawn, but a small pawn in fact. d4, knight c4, and here, well, I had a look at e3 during the game. I remember shortly I looked at e3 and then castling, and I thought, okay, I'm probably a bit better, but I'm also better in the game, so why bother? Well, actually the computer says g3, and I think this move is better here than e3. The point is that my queen will have to go back at some point to c2 or somewhere, and if my queen goes back after I've played e3, then there will always be, moves like queen g5 or queen h4, and these pawns on h2 and g2 are under pressure, so it's not so easy. So I thought g3 is better here, castling and bishop g2, and here with the fianchetto I'm certainly doing well with white, and I'm starting to be a solid pawn up. So that would have been the best move. And after queen b3, then it becomes a bit unpleasant. Queen e7. Now if I play e3, I thought my move after the game was not really good, but actually it's perhaps best. e3 is just bishop f5, and you know, pawn square on d3 together with castling long is going to be not easy for me to protect. So I had to parry this threat here, knight d3, so I went knight d4, and well, my idea after bishop c7 was I saw that move queen b4, which is actually quite good here to try and exchange the queens. Not easy for black to avoid that, and then white is at least a bit better. But Aurelio played well, he castled long, and here is probably the moment when I start completely to drift. and because objectively my position is still okay. But look at my bishops, look at my king, and look at at black's position. Everything is out. The both bishops are out. The knight on e5 is really nice. He has castled, meaning the rook plays. The queen is well placed. The rook will come very certainly to e8. Everything is out. Everything is playing. And still during the game, I was convinced that I should be better here with white. I'm a pawn up. He's blundered. But psychologically, I made this big mistake that I should really gather my strength and look for a way to develop my pieces. I did that, of course. I was aware that I had to bring my pieces out, but somehow my evaluation was completely wrong, I think. Objectively, the computer says d4 would be best here. Knight g6 is probably better. There was knight c4, of course, possible as well, but then I take on d6. He has to take back. And I think even d5 is something quite interesting for white. It's pretty wild, but should be better for white. So let's say knight g6 is natural. And then I take here, and I can play bishop e3. It looks still a bit, you know, strange, but perhaps I want to castle long as well. I actually, when I played knight e4 on move 11, I started thinking that I should castle long, play d3 or d4 and castle long, and that's actually why here I played d3 instead of the better move d4. And that's the moment when he played bishop c7 back, and it's very good. He wants to play f5 and then take on d3. Very simple, but very effective. And when I went for that, actually I want to play bishop e3, and I had completely missed it after f5. Knight c5, I can just play b6. I have to go somewhere, like probably a6 and then f4. I'm more or less busted here. So yeah, I can play like this. So I went queen b4. And well, perhaps black could take on b4. Would have been very decent compensation for black, but I think what he played was much stronger. Queen e8. Well, after the game he told me that actually he's very bad in endgame, so he discarded the exchange of queens out of principle. But at the same time, this queen e8 is a very good move. He keeps queens on the board. He keeps pressure on the e file by keeping these queens there. So f5 is going to be a very strong threat as well. And yeah, my queen is sometimes even misplaced, you know, because of knight takes d3 or sometimes bishop a5, you know, things like this. And yeah, maybe I'm a Kramnik fan. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Omkar. I felt I was better everywhere. And even yeah, after the game, my feeling was also that I must have done something bad afterwards. But actually, I made something bad afterwards just to end up losing. When this position is actually very complicated, and my development is the big problem. My king is in the center. My bishops are not developed, let alone my rooks. So well, here after queen e8, actually there were two ways to bail out with a, let's say, more or less decent position. And this is not a move I played in the game. Of course, my idea bishop e3 fails again to f5. Now the computer says knight c5, and here he wants to give up a piece by playing something I can't remember. But it's not good. So so h3 is a possibility, but I didn't really like f5 here. And takes, and the computer says a5 is good for whatever reason, and not so clear. Well, I didn't say c5. I thought he can take on e4, and it's going to be dangerous anyway. I actually, believe it or not, I took f3 into consideration because this square on f2 for the knight could be important to protect d3. Somehow here I started feeling there were problems, really serious problems, concrete. Although I still felt I should be better somehow, completely mistaken. But f3 I did take into consideration when I took a look at 5, knight f2, and then rook d5 is not clear, threatening bishop a5. I go perhaps queen a4, bishop h5, and objectively the position is not so clear. It's probably something I should be happy with, that the position is not so clear, because in the game after d4, I played here d4, yeah, d3, d4. I calculated a few things, and the move in the game as well. But it's not so good. Well, I was hoping my opponent to fall into a trap, rook d5, when here I can take on e5, bishop a5, and here I win thanks to knight d6, which I can play immediately actually. But I can also take on a5 and knight d6, winning back the queen, and remain a piece up. So f5, he did f5. Well, he thought for a while, and he played f5, which is this is the move which has to be played. I still somehow thought I should find a way to be better, but I felt this was not really good here. Queen takes e4, or thinking about queen d7, or perhaps queen e6, as the computer says, is even better. It's not clear how I'm going to develop my pieces, and yeah, black has actually a very strong attack. Objectively though, maybe this would have been better than what I played in the game. Although, yeah, you know, let's see what I did. I played knight c5. I thought, okay, I'm gonna take this knight on e5, but at least I need my opponent to have weakened his king as well. Perhaps not, I mean, from a practical point of view, not too stupid. So d takes c5, b takes c5. Well, and here, well, I had thought I should take on c5. I had calculated pretty far here, and I thought it should be more or less okay, but in fact, what I played in the game is probably just a losing move. And I should have gone to a4, which I thought about as well. Queen takes e5, queen takes c6. Well, I didn't really see, well, I saw I could take on c6, but if I shouldn't take on c5, then probably I should not take on c6. I thought I should do something for my development, but I couldn't really see what, so that's why I discarded queen a4. But actually this position, well, the computer says it's worse for white. c4, and look at this. I mean, even my checks on a8 or a6 are not dangerous at all, and he's coming with the rook to d8. Just one more piece for black to join the party, and I'm basically toast here. Well, objectively not lost, but it's clearly worse for me. So I went for a queen takes c5, rook d5. Well, actually even queen takes e5 was quite interesting here, but rook d5 is the move you should play with black. Well, here if I go back with the queen, he takes and I take, then king b8 simply, and there's nothing really I can hope for. He's just 100 tempi up in his attack. So I took on a7 because I saw the move in the game, queen takes e5, f3, which is definitely not too clear. But actually queen takes e5 is a mistake. We just both missed. Well, I saw he could play that move, the winning move, but I didn't really understand the consequences. Here black could win straight, in a very straightforward way. Bishop a5, check. I had seen b4, queen takes e5. I thought rook a2 should be okay. Didn't really think any further. His bishop is hanging, queen a8 perhaps at some point. And also now, if I can ever move my e-pawn, at the moment it's not possible, but bishop a6 will be also very strong to be able to castle soon with a tempo. But basically here black is winning with queen c3 check, bishop d2 and queen b3. And it's not very surprising black is winning. I mean, he's threatening mate, and you know, look at my position. And actually, when I took a look at this game afterwards, at some point earlier, I actually switched sides here, not looking at the position from the white side but from the black side, and I was in a shock. What's my king doing, my bishop on f1, my rook on h1? It's just a shocking position. How could I let myself into such a position? I simply neglected one of the most basic rules in chess, or at least in chess openings, development. And I kept thinking that I was better, when I should actually be very careful to equalize even. Yeah, I think Aurelio, who is Luis Carvajal here on YouTube, you also saw this, but you also missed queen b3. Yeah. But I was very careless because I just thought it was nothing special. I could, everything is hanging in your position too, so I thought should be okay. Well, actually, I was already very short on time. My opponent had more time here. But after queen takes e5, here I found a very good move, which I had foreseen when, actually it was not really relevant, but I had foreseen when I decided to take on, what was this? To play knight c5 and b6 and so on. So a few moves earlier I had seen that f3 here. Of course, the kibitzers may claim there is mate with queen g3 here, but I had, yeah, my queen on a7 far away comes back to prevent the mate. So that's actually the trick, which my opponent possibly missed when, well, he might say, when he went for this queen takes e5. Otherwise, he would probably have looked a bit further, a bit deeper into bishop a5, and the game would have ended very, very soon. f3, and suddenly things are very unclear. So you know, the game is complicated, and I'm not going to go into details too deeply. So he went rook hd8, but basically it's still a very big struggle for white, struggle for development. I need to play f3 in order to free my bishop with e3 or e4 somewhere, and finally go out to a6 to give a check. Of course, e3 here is a mate, so I need to play f3, and it was quite important that I had this resource, otherwise it really looks completely lost for white if there is not f3. Rook hd8, e3, also the best move, and here my opponent made a mistake. So actually this move, I had missed his move, and when he played it, it made an impression on me, because first of all I had missed it, and second point is, you know, there is an idea in his move, rook 8 to d6. Double idea actually, because the rook can be switched there in case I should be castle one day, but otherwise the rook will be switched to the 6th rank. And he also, you know, he wants to have this king d7 so that both rooks do not lose coordination. It's actually a good idea, but objectively he should have played rook d1 check. King f2, and yeah, I can see, yeah, so king f2, and what I calculated here was check here, takes, and I thought bishop e2 may be good, but there is perpetual check actually, because here I can't really escape. I felt that, I didn't really calculate. King g1, I saw I could play king g1, but I somehow didn't really trust it. But here, yeah, white is actually better after king g1, so he can really do this. And there is bishop takes f3, which I completely missed, of course. When if I take, there is rook takes f1, something just very nice, but not easy to see. And here I can't go to g2 because he takes on h2, and there is queen takes on h1, there is queen takes h2 in the end. So I have to go here. And not surprisingly, black is clearly better. But here after bishop takes f3, I have bishop a6 check. Well, it's complicated, but just to show you here, I can get into this endgame, which is probably slightly better for white. At the moment I'm pawn up, and it's not the greatest pawn up I've ever been in my entire career, but it's still a pawn out boost. So some chances for white to try and convert it later on. Still, this would have been better than rook 8 d6, even though objectively, and this is more or less what Nature from India was saying earlier, that sometimes you make a mistake, not consciously, not obligatorily consciously. You give up a pawn or you make a mistake, and practical problems for the opponent are very important. So important that this mistake turns out to be successful in the end. So you know, practical chess, I mean, it's not just about computer evaluation. You need to solve problems over the board with the clock ticking, and that's not something which is easy. And this is something which everybody usually, and even sometimes myself, miss when we watch games live online on you know, on your favorite chess platform with the engine running, and saying Carlsen, they made this mistake, the evaluation moved from 0.50 to 0.1, or he made this mistake from +2, he's down to +1 to +1, and well, how could he miss it? But practical problems over the board, this is something which nowadays is underestimated, clearly. Yeah, we should always keep this in mind. So rook 8 d6, not a good move. I played okay in the game. I could have played bishop e2 as well, simply stopping rook d1, and it appears that white is better here, even though it's how to find after bishop h5, how to find castle here, because well, there is no mate. There is a rook on d6, but there is no discovered attack for the rook. And here the computer says white is better, even though practically, from a practical point of view, it's not easy to understand or to prove even. I gave a check to a6 with the queen, because besides this could be a bit nasty sometimes. So I decided to give a check and to play bishop e2. Yeah, I'm just checking your comments, just beauty of mistake, yeah, actually, or the strength of mistakes sometimes, I could even say. And here bishop e2, and well, again, objectively, computer says white is better, but things are far from clear. So in practice, and my opponent made a mistake, but we were already very, very short on time. It's move 22, and I can't really remember precisely, but I must have had something like 2 or 3 minutes, and my opponent as well. So it's with the 30 seconds, but still, it's very complicated. So objectively, rook h6 is bad, and actually I understood why. Well, actually, queen g3 seems to be a threat, but it's not a threat mate, a forced threat mate. Because after queen g3 I can move my king, and that's why actually I could simply take on g4, and somehow logically my brain was not working in that sense, because queen g3 king f1 is a win for white. There's not enough attack. I think that even there, the practical problems I could have solved, I hope at least. So well, he should take on h2, and takes, and bishop f3. And even though there are checks and it's not 100% safe yet, white should be winning here. And so I decided to play e4. And bishop takes h6. Again, yeah, well, if queen g3, then I had king f1. So that's why it's even more stupid that I missed f takes g4. e4. Took on h6, pawn takes f3. I took back. Well, here we made mistakes in time trouble. Bishop take f3 would have been better, and then rook c1, and somehow white can secure an advantage. Bishop h3 was a mistake, but again, in time trouble, it's easy to miss queen g3 with mate to follow. So my first reaction was to play rook g1 tempo, and actually I almost played it, but then I started seeing, oh, there is bishop a5, the threat as well. If I play b4, he can take. Well, here white is objectively winning, although even this is not so easy to understand here, that I have b5 and winning. So even if you're not in time trouble, it's not easy to understand. And if white takes here on h6, then I can play rook c1, and then it's more or less safe for white. So I played bishop d2, and of course I saw he could take and give check, but I thought somehow I might be able to escape. And here I thought I had escaped until I saw he could go back to c7 with the bishop. And actually, even this is pretty dangerous, this position for me, because if he plays queen e5, then it's still black fighting for an advantage. I am, what am I? I am 2 rooks for a bishop. I have 2 rooks for a bishop, so it's a pretty nice material advantage. My rooks are both still on the starting squares. They are not developed in a way. They coordinate, but they are not developed in a way. And my opponent is in full attacking mode again. So here I go to d3, check, and well, here I have almost to go back to the first rank when I lose both rooks. So the best, according to the computer, is to play this. The computer gives an edge for black, but in practice, I think, you know, white should be able to hold it. But okay, not a very nice thing to defend for white. So, well, that was the game, well, which ended in a draw with a perpetual check like this. My opponent, well, he also felt he had enough. Probably he didn't really see this queen e5 and things, and exactly the same as me, I missed it. And in the end, I'm not sure it's a fair result. I mean, usually when you end a game like this, you go and drink a beer with your opponent and you say fair result, but I think it was not really a fair result, because my opponent definitely would have deserved better, despite blundering a pawn. You know, it's not because you blunder a pawn that you should lose the game, and he fought with all his strengths and he missed a few things in a winning attack. So yeah, I can't complain about the result in the end, even though I also got my chances in the time trouble. But well, yeah, development again, you could see it. I think in this game it was very clear black was 5-6 tempi up in development, and this was clearly worth a pawn, and even more. Omkar, you were asking me if I could give some tips on what to think when the king is exposed or stuck in the center. Well, what to think? You have to think that it's dangerous. What to do? You have to be really aware of your opponent's threats. Basically, every move you have to ask yourself, what is my opponent's threat or intention? This, if you keep this automatically in your mind, and you can actually do this not just when your king is under attack, but basically always in your games. After each move of your opponent, take 10-15 seconds just to try and spot your opponent's idea. It can be a threat, it can be a trap, it can just be an idea. He wants to go there with his knight, or he wants to play f4, or he wants to play. You understand what he wants to do. This sometimes gives you direction in how you have to think, in what direction you have to calculate. It can help your choice of candidate moves. So that really helps, but it's even more important, I would say, when your king is under direct attack, to always be really wary of your opponent's threat, because as I said before, if you make a mistake when your opponent attacks you, it can usually be the last. It's usually the last mistake, and you're losing in a few moves. So the value of your moves is much more important. Is much higher. So be really careful of this. Then it always depends on how your opponent's attack is developing. Has he sacrificed material for his attack? If this is the case, then you can sometimes give back part of or all the material he's sacrificed just to kill the attack. and recover somehow, or regain a normal position. Try and simplify by exchanging queens. Usually the queen is of course the strongest piece in the attack. It's not just the strongest piece on the board, but if you can exchange queens, sometimes the attack dies or slows down. So yeah, these are main things. Yeah, sometimes you even have to sacrifice material to kill the attack. By doing this, because it's really rare also that your opponent can attack, you know, freely, like on a free roll, without having made any concession. So I was speaking of sacrificing material. This is a concession, but also positional concessions sometimes. Weak squares, or giving up an important piece in order to be able to attack with other pieces. All this you have to keep in mind. Sometimes your opponent gives you a bishop so that he can attack, but then the squares of the bishop which he has given are weak, and by sacrificing something you can try to establish some sort of control over these squares, so have positional compensation. If you have killed the attack, this is important. Maybe one day I will take a look at my game against Richard Rapport from the Olympiad 2016 in Baku, when I was under attack and then I gave up my queen for rook piece, for 2 pieces, and well, it was actually a very important, very interesting game when defense was, you know, in the center of the first phase of this game. So it would be an idea to speak about this. But defense is actually a topic I like to you know, examine with my pupils. And if Noah is watching, then he's certainly gonna know about this. Yeah, it's something important because it's not an easy part to play when you are in the game. In the receiving end, you're under an attack. When we work at home, when we train, we always project ourselves in a good position. We try to convert an advantage. We try to play an equal position. But when we have to be worse, it's not pleasant. It's not a nice thing to do at home. So it's good to force yourself sometimes. Let me check the chat a bit more. So we can say that Aurelio played like a GM. Actually, in that game, he was the GM. I don't think I was, definitely. Do you think it is better to make the best move than move that gives you the best chances? Shoepiece. Hello, Shoepiece. I don't think I've ever seen you here, so welcome. Well, we've talked about this before. Nature from India asked that question before, more or less, and I was referring to Morozevic's interview about, well, his opinion on Carlsen, saying that Carlsen does not always try to play the best move, but the one which puts most pressure on his opponent, which is the most unpleasant, which can provoke mistakes. So yes, I think it's sometimes better to play a move which you believe will provoke mistakes by your opponent, rather than just to find the best way and the best move. Definitely, you know, practical play is more important than theoretically what can be the best. Yeah, Aurelio aka Luis Carvajal, yeah, he was asked why he didn't continue. Well, with 30 seconds on the clock, and these seconds ticking very quickly, ticking down, it's not easy, first of all, to see Queen e5 and my king can try to escape, perhaps. No, I understand. Also, maybe you can be also under still the impression I am a grandmaster, so maybe the draw is not too bad. Maybe for the team it's not too bad. Well, many factors. So you shouldn't curse yourself for not playing. And I actually I'm happy you didn't play on. Yeah, so the game was it was not a good game. There were many mistakes, but it was definitely an entertaining one, an interesting one, and yeah, I actually also had maybe not fun because I was defending, but I had some adrenaline. And when you play chess, you prefer to have some adrenaline. You know, you're running down your veins. Yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah. So, well, we've been in there for quite a long time. I had prepared another game, but it would all last too much and too long, so we won't go into this. Everything lasted really nicely, and I'd like to thank you all, of course, for being present tonight and participating also for so actively in the chat, because it really makes our work, our discussion much more interesting. So I hope you enjoyed it, and for those who haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that. I mean, this is also quite important to me to have this kind of support, so you can like the video, you can put some comments. For those of you who are going to watch that video afterwards, not in a live stream, you can always ask questions in comment section below. Yeah, remarks, anything, I'll certainly answer you very fast. And so, well, hope you liked it, and don't forget again to like and subscribe. I'm certainly gonna see you next week again at this time at 8, not 8:30. I'll be back at 8. So thank you for watching, and see you next week. Bye.